Goedemiddag dames en heren. Ik denk het is min meer tijd voor ons begin. Als je nou mensen inkomt, natuurlijk welkom. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome at this session. I'm seeing a few familiar faces like ex-students, but also many of you that I haven't met. So my name is Marius. I'm from the business school, so this is not my own territory. I don't teach in these rooms. But yes, annually we sort of come together and showcase what we've sort of done collectively as economic and business faculty. Van u wat Afrikaans is baie welkom om die vrae in Afrikaans te vra. But in the light of the inclusive aspirations of the university, I will sort of make a presentation in English. If there's anything you want me to repeat or explain, I will gladly do that. But we are doing, and of course you can hear I'm talking English not because I sort of got this delicious pronunciations, but in light of facility, in the light of connecting to everybody, that's why we're doing that. Okay, so the theme, strategies, practices and skills for competitiveness in the digital economy, that's what I'm going to share with you. 3 introductory slides. So this is what Google is telling us. These are the jobs of the future. With the size of the bubbles, the billions, so my students would like the size of the bubble. That sort of says something. Oh, and then it's gone. It's gone. It's showing here with me, but is there somebody from the faculty who can? Because that light is gone.
Als jullie maar
oh yeah, something. Oh, you know this. Nee, kijk nou, daar lig is daar so dood.
Ja, is oorlede, ek sien hom. Gefilter. Kan die ou kry.
Okay. Yeah. But the time is. So what the slide is, so let me tell you what you're supposed to see. It's talking about the new jobs, and the job sounds like this: virtual commerce as the biggest pool of new opportunity spaces, also the fastest growing category of jobs. Second to that, something that I call big data. That's of course the using the data coming from all these digital interactions, and then cloud computing. That's sort of on the hardware side, and then 3D printing. That's the sort of right-hand side, high growth, high potential, new jobs that is emerging. At the same time, we see the following patterns. Cell phones increase. In South Africa today there's 68 million cell phones in the country. So I mean, clearly people have more than one, and clearly babies also have one. The number of internet users increasing from 5.4 per 100,000 people in 2000 to 41 out of 100,000 in 2012, significant increase. Adults using internet for banking, 3 times more than in 2007, and people doing their shopping online, 6-fold increase. So clearly something is happening on the utilization of these devices. And of course the other effect of that is the number of fixed line telephone connections as well as the number of post office private boxes are going down. I mean, those things are not like anymore the big way of getting information. But of course, if we talk about this topic broadband internet speed and the cost in South Africa were very uncompetitive compared to a number of other economies. For example, broadband speed in South Africa was roughly a quarter of that of the United States, but cost almost 10 times as much. So it's not only just a good side story, there is still a problem. And the question that I'm asking is, how does business respond to the opportunities in the digital age? Because that's really what is coming to the fore. Oh, yeah, we're going to have... So, with that in mind, we have put together a research team from University of Stellenbosch Business School and University of Western Cape, and we've got sponsorship from INESI, which is the National E-Skills Institute. It's a Department of Communication. It's a unit in the Department of Communication, and we said we want to probe the digital readiness of businesses in South Africa. And there's some information on this available through the Gardeners of the World, but if you are like part of those Gardener surveys where 600 CEOs participate in, then the South African participating CEOs would be like 8. And then they say, oh yeah, then they make sort of conclusions on what's the situation in South Africa. So we've designed then a research process that would give us data, but we didn't focus on the infrastructure component because we feel that that's well researched and all the IT companies are like biased to give us information on that. What is lacking is the capacity of organization and the people, I don't care, on what's the situation to utilize this infrastructure for business opportunity benefit realization. So INSEAD has done some work in that vein for European companies, and we sort of use that as a departure point. So the study is not talking about hardware. The study isn't talking about software. The study is talking about the real thing called people. And how ready are people in the South African economy to utilize the opportunities that's associated with the digital age? And that we wanted to sort of create a benchmark and view on. So I will tell you now about who was part of the study and the sort of landscape of ITC in South Africa from that perspective, and then we will talk through 6-7 patterns from the data. So ITC, Information Communication Technology, digital economy, is the utilization of the internet and systems and devices to grow a business. So yes, business can grow on top line, but businesses can also grow by cost saving. That's what we mean by both of those two things, and it's about systems, devices, and it's about the internet, and it's about the connection. And then a related theme is this thing of how ready are businesses to use this. So it's an individual or a company's ability or skill in using the internet, systems and devices for work and in all of everyday life. Now let me just pause here and say that one of the realizations that we had is that, yes, this study has been done to probe businesses, but the experience of people working in businesses with these devices don't start and end only when they enter business. These technologies are pervasive, and of course they use and they're interacting with these technologies while they're not at work. And in some cases, we would show that well, that pattern is not necessarily continuing. So here are the companies, only two large companies, so we've deliberately made the decision we want to look at the best in South Africa. This is the best picture that we can create on what is the situation of digital readiness in South Africa. So 60% listed companies, and here you see a fair spread on the main sectors. All done with telephonic interviews with senior representatives from the companies, and in some cases even two or three people participating in that interview process. Dominated by the ITC CIO, well represented by HR people, finance people, and a little bit underrepresented by marketing and strategy people. And our idea was that people would actually give us 3 people to come and sit there, because we know this is interdisciplinary. It's not like just one person taking the responsibility. So direct on the landscape, what are they telling us? So outsourcing, a definite trend. So who's providing the ITC services in these firms? So the trend to outsource certain ITC services is clearly there. And the question that comes to the fore is, what are the implications for your future digital strategies if this outsourcing is a reality? And of course, the implication is your ability to manage partnerships and alliances, and of course to leverage the benefits that lies in here. But about a third of the sample fully in-house control, they run the show, so to speak. Then in these companies, the employees' access to digital resources, and this is where I'm sort of coming from when I say there's a contradiction. In my private life, I have access to these things, but when I come to work, there's regulated access all the way. In emails, internet, internal management information, decentralized employee participation, and the use of social media. So our conclusion is that the utilization of digital resources for employee engagement that's underexplored, and that refer to this decentralized and internal management information part. So clearly we are talking about a barrier and a way of thinking about these technologies, and one can see that the regulated access is clearly still a big pattern. We are not arguing that everything should be open. We are arguing that there is potential for development and utilizing it for higher employee engagement. So where are these companies investing in? So transactional processes, advanced business analytics, e-security. So our conclusion is that it's dominantly, the investments are in efficiently driven activities. That's where the focus of the investments. And this corresponds broadly with the McKinsey sort of trends, where they're monitoring this investment in digital technologies. But the adjustments of the business model to become more competitive, innovative products and services, digital engagement of customers, here you can see, I mean, there's investments, but I mean, there's still a lot of medium, minor, or not applicable views in the song. So again, what we are seeing is that yes, using it for efficiency, but for potential disruptive technologies, that requires a new paradigm, and many of the companies are not displaying that in their current investment decisions. So let's talk about then further on the results directly, and we will talk. I will show 6 of the patterns coming from the research. So the first is around the digital strategy practices. So the question was, how core is the digital economy in your current and future strategy? And here you see that 39, future 44% of the respondents are saying yes, it's central. And the rest are then, it's one component or it's central to a business unit. So we make the conclusion that the majority acknowledge the potential impact of the digital economy and its in different variations. The question, however, is the speed of the adoption of the digital strategies fast enough? And the international benchmark on central is already around 50%. So our global competitors, they are saying that if the CEOs are surveyed, they are saying, well, 50% of those firms see the digital strategies as a central part when they think about strategy. And here we see that that is definitely not the case. It's one component or it's central to a business unit. So again, the uptake and realization that, well, things are moving, something else is important on the digital radar. And the level of involvement, and here, I think no surprise that the discussions and the decisions is dominated by the CIOs, Chief Information Officers, and the CEOs. So they supported by marketing executives. But look at this. Boards relatively reactively involved, and for this study, a big surprise, HR executives also low on that influencing, meaning that this proactive influencing percentages are relatively low, and you can see that the majority is going through reactive influence. And again, we are arguing that, well, this is justifications. That here you have a group of people who's going in a direction, and the board is only reactively approving or going along with this. And that doesn't sound, in any terms, like good corporate governance. And of course, the people who need to create the capacities, when they are like only reactive involved, one can anticipate what's going to be the results. So we've also asked them on the strategic level to rate their digital maturity. And 70% rated the digital maturity level of the companies as medium to low. So that tells us the sort of story that there's a long way still to go in growing the digital capacity in firms and helping executives, functionaries, and employees to work with this in a constructive way so that we can have the benefits. And, well, on the positive side, they are high and mature. About 30% of this group of companies say, well, we will rate our maturity as high. And we've seen in our interview process that this 30% group of companies, of course, are there. And if you wonder which company would that be, don't think farther than Media 24 or the big Naspers group. I mean, things that they're doing. They're just embracing this paradigm, and they're making this the center of their strategic thrust moving forward. But if you don't like that and say, oh no, but we're not in that business, then a very surprising finding of one of these companies, and we had them when we've launched the results, so I'm not sort of speaking out, is an agricultural company. And it's an agricultural company situated here in Malmesbury, with the head office there. Who of you would guess which company would that be? Kaap Agri. Kaap Agri is in this category of high maturity. And they've, a few years ago, made this digital transformation a central thrust and focus point for their development. And you can see on their results, you can see that they are different. And they're doing things in a different way. Okay, last slide on the strategic part, so the digital strategic practices. So how do they monitor their digital progress? How do they know that they are making progress? These are the things that we've given them, and functional systems, there you can see always. Well, that's the highest, so they monitor the functional systems. But the tracking of their progress is biased towards these sort of known, but the people-related monitoring mechanisms like e-skills development, intangible capital growth, competence levels of desktop software package usage. I mean, you know, everybody's got these Microsoft packages on their machines. Those things take a huge lot of money and the capacity, but there's no monitoring of how is that used and what is the level of skills in utilizing that. But it's there. And then, of course, for revenue generating activities here is to see income via digital revenue models. It's not yet even at the 20% level. So again, functional, cost-effective orientation, but the expanded, and what we would then call an expanded e-corporate scorecard, it's not there. You know, that thinking is not strategically coming to the fore. Then the second, people practices. So directly, when we look at and ask about the people practices and the influence of the digital technologies on those practices, we've got the following. The extent to which digital practices are integrated into core people practices. Here, well entrenched. Interventions for career path progression, that's the highest, 34%. But here you can see the rest are all under 30%. So our conclusions overall, there's a low level of integration of digital capability development into core people practices. And it's perhaps a reflection of the mindset that the capabilities and skills associated with this domain are mainly associated with ITC practitioners. But that, of course, you must also understand that the people we've talked to were mainly ITC. So this is also a blind spot for them where they don't see the opportunity of influencing this traditional HR domains with these technologies and making it part of the way that we do performance management, when people access the organization minimum requirements for digital skills, when we select managers for those roles. That's an interesting one, reverse mentoring. One of the practices that we've seen by those top 20% group, mentoring of older by younger people. I mean, in the house, that's happening every day. If I have a problem at home and I can't do something, I just talk to my children. And I mean, they're very irritated to help me, and they can't understand that I don't understand. But those same skills are available in organizations, and it's not utilized, and of course the whole thing of e-innovation, rewards, totally so we are saying that there's a huge improvement area in the direct people practices to infuse those traditional processes with e-skills requirements, e-skills capacities. So directly on skills practices, development of skills practices, we've looked at 3 categories. So it's the managers, the leaders, who use both leadership and then ITC skills, the practitioners, those are the specialists doing the work of maintaining, servicing, supporting ITC systems, and then of course there's the user group who use these things in their daily activity. And then when we've asked, so tell us about the level of the skills of those groups, you would see that it is the ITC practitioners in advanced level is absolutely standing out. Now that's not surprising when you now have heard that, well, this whole conversation is dominated by that environment. But of course, if your leadership and your users are like, it's all average, the majority is average. That's not setting the company up for greatness. That's not setting it up for utilizing these skills now for competitive benefits. So the ability of a sustainable or substantial majority of companies in South Africa to accelerate their participation in the digital opportunity space of the economy is a big concern based on the results that we see here. Then, how do they build their talent base, their e-skills talent base? Growing your own timber. The main one, so internal development initiatives, well, in trends, and then the second one, headhunting. Here you see, used from time to time, 45%. That's the way that we sort of get these skills. And other bursaries, learnership, which is more proactive forms of investment in talent, is underutilized. And of course, collaborative efforts with institutions of learning, rarely used, nearly 50% not being utilized as a long-term capacity creation. Just make a note, slide 24, and in the end we can come back to this. So that's why I'm a little bit rushed, so that we can go back to each of these points. Skills and practices in support of the digital age. What are the challenges? The main challenges that they are saying is to have an agile and adaptive organization, because we know that you've sort of just completed one round of technology rollout, and then there's something better available. The availability of ITC skills, so that's the appropriate user skills in functional areas, and the mastery of e-leadership skills by executives. So this is a confirmation of what we've seen in the previous slides, that they are saying, yes, these things now translate to big challenges for the businesses. But very interesting, when we did sort of a deeper analysis, sort of looking for correlations in the data, the digitally mature companies, so it's those top 20%, regard the availability of the relevant ITC practitioner skills as significantly more a challenge. You see, this availability, it's like a large challenge, 70% on average. But those companies who are really excelling at this, that percentage is significantly higher, because they are looking for very specific, specialized skills, which one can say, well, that we can actually expect. Then on the learning delivery, what did we find? Half of the companies reported that a maximum of 30% of their learning initiatives are available on online format, which is a surprise finding. I mean, it's not as if these sort of e-learning platforms are like new things. So half of the companies indicated only 30% of their learning. 22% reported that more than 70% of the learning material was available. So the potential benefits associated with online learning is underutilized based on the data that we see here. Right, so that's on the strategic level, the people practices, the skills level. So the flow of knowledge and innovation. A very interesting finding of the study on an open question on where's the sources of innovation coming from. They are saying that that is coming from the IT department and the marketing department. That's the main sources of innovation. And the surprising finding for us is the few companies regarded the broader employee component as a source of innovation. And companies are underestimating how wise people are with these devices, because they are playing with this and they are confronted with this all the time in their private lives. And they are just looking narrowly at the IT department and the marketing department as a source of innovation. So clearly, I mean, we are not utilizing the capacities that's available. Then we must now know that an organization is not an island on itself, it's part of a bigger ecosystem. So we've inquired on this and say, well, are you sharing these benefits with the people that, like the partners, your alliance partners, your suppliers, the SMEs, your local communities, and the family of employees? And in those three last categories, you see that it's totally underutilized. I mean, it is not used 43% and up. So clearly, again, utilizing these technologies where they have a pervasive capacity creation potential in your supply chain, in local community activities, and of course for benefits of employee. Those infrastructures are there, but people are not thinking innovatively about that to utilize that. So many participating companies did not leverage the opportunity to enhance the digital readiness of the network from which they are part of and from which they gain benefits. And then the last view is leading, what is required about leading, and it's clear for us that the acceptance of lifelong learning and this ongoing search for new insights, that is what is required from digital leadership. The stimulation of the exchanges of knowledge across different boundaries. Of course, the whole thing of fostering innovation, that comes from the top, and that is not happening to the extent that it should be. And of course, if the biggest challenge is we want an agile organization, then of course to respond and adopt quickly, that is the leadership who can create conducive environments for that. That's what we're looking for. So, for final conclusions then, as in a summary of what we find on the strategic level, acknowledging the game-changing effect of IPC, and then plan it as an integral part of the future strategy of the firm, because that influence is just going to grow. Ensure the capacity creation benefits from the IPC outsourcing partners. If 70% of the work is being done through the partnerships and alliances, then at least contract and manage the flow of benefits from that outsourcing partner. Shift the investments not only in the efficiency side, but also in the value creation side of business model reinvention, new products and services innovation, and digital engagement with customers. And then expand the current scorecards to at least have an e-scorecard. And that measures on a high level the digital maturity as part of the enterprise scorecard. So it's a new score that we need to invent, we need to create. The other strategic practices on influence the partnerships with educational institutions to create competent local talent. I think the discussion is, I don't know who's waiting for who, but there isn't a lively discussion on that. And you know academics, when they're left alone, they will build you castles that practice don't need. So it's a dangerous gap that's there. Invest in the enhancement of digital readiness of the stakeholders. So it's the supply chain, the SME development, the local community engagement, all those opportunities that's really low-hanging fruit because the capacity already exists, but it's not to the benefit of a larger group. Director of HR practices, reform the core HR practices to reflect the digital competence requirements in entry-level roles, career progression routes, performance management routines, manager selection and advancement, rewards for innovation, the whole reverse mentoring coaching on the digital domain as a core HR practice, and e-talent based enlargement and proactive development. That's the new talent bench. If we talk about the talent bench, that new talent bench has now become this competence people. And then on people development, investment in e-capacity for board executives and senior leaders. It's clear that there's a gap, and to move to more proactive influencing. That knowledge gap needs to be closed. User skills development, online, real-time learning, the whole thing of putting the learning when the user needs the learning. That's what this technology is offering us. Cross-boundary flows of knowledge, and of course the whole pipeline development. I haven't spoken about youngification strategies. So those top 20% of companies, they deliberately bring in very senior high levels of management, younger people. And that's a new word that we sort of created through this research, youngification. Because those people, you don't have to train them how to use these things. You don't have to show them what is Twitter. They just know it and they live it and they use it in their daily managerial activities. And one of the companies said to us that that's one of the main reasons why they had success. Because they just sort of skip this whole thing of let the people train and let work with the resistors. When you have this younger generation who embrace technology and do this in a natural way, and then of course you're on an accelerated growth path. Right, that's the results from our survey. As I said, what we attempt to do is to sort of create a benchmark baseline on what is the situation in South Africa. This 80 companies, it is like 10 times more than any research that's been done in this domain on South African companies. And in a certain way, it's showing a lot of areas for improvement for us, but in another way, hopefully it's also a wake-up call for us.